So now I got a question for everybody. All right. And my question for everybody is the same question that I always ask. Take a wild guess what question I'm about to ask. You know, I love asking stupid questions. How many people heard about this?
This is Mac Nelson, a Kansas City man who says he suffered excessive force at the hands of the Kansas City Police Department. In fact, he and his attorney told me they recently settled with KCPD for $500,000. It's a settlement
for $500,000. Now, again, did anybody hear about this? Now, pay very close attention to this. What state is this? This is in Kansas. This is in Kansas, Dorothy. Okay. Is anybody familiar with anything that has gone on in Kansas?
This is Mac Nelson, a Kansas City man who says he suffered excessive force at the hands of the Kansas City Police Department. In fact, he and his attorney told me they recently settled with KCPD for $500,000. It's a settlement they say wouldn't have been possible without a police accountability group and a video captured on a cell phone. It's the same video that's now being reviewed along with the incident itself by the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office. A quick warning, some of the images and video you're about to see could be considered disturbing to some.
It's been almost a year since the pavement outside this Kansas City gas station was marred by bloodstains from two separate incidents that happened just hours apart. Two things they share in common, both involved Kansas City police officers, and both were caught on camera. First, on August 8th, 2022, a man was shot and killed by KCPD, a shooting that was ruled justified after surveillance video showed him nearly hitting an officer with his vehicle. Then, hours later, police said a witness to that fatal shooting fell to the ground as he was resisting arrest. But his attorney and witnesses argue this cell phone video tells a much different story. As you watch, pay attention to the right side of the screen, almost off camera. It happened so fast, we're slowing the video down to give you a better look as Mac Nelson's body hits the ground.
So I want you guys to, there's a lot going on there. I want to make sure that everybody caught everything. Because there was a lot going on right there.
Justified after surveillance video showed him nearly hitting an officer with his vehicle. Then, hours later.
So now I actually want to kind of do some background research on this particular situation. And if there's anybody that runs across anything in regards to this, you guys know what to do.
Were caught on camera. First, on August 8th, 2022, a man was shot and killed by KCPD, a shooting that was ruled justified after surveillance video showed him nearly hitting an officer with his vehicle. Then, hours later, police said a witness to that fatal shooting fell to the ground as he was resisting arrest. But his attorney and witnesses argue this cell phone video tells a...
Now, why were they arresting a witness? Did you guys catch that? Why were the police, for one, why were the police arresting a witness? First of all, I mean, I'm just curious. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have, and I'm not saying that they should have. I just want to know what the circumstances were behind them arresting a witness. I mean, I don't know what was going on. So my question is, why were they arresting that witness?
His attorney and witnesses argue this cell phone video tells a much different story. Showed him nearly hitting an officer with his vehicle. Then, hours later, police said a witness to that fatal shooting fell to the ground as he was resisting arrest. But his attorney and witnesses...
So now he was never a part of the crime. He was never, convicted of a crime. This dude was a witness to this incident, and the police were arresting him. Now, my question is, again, why were they arresting him?
Argue this cell phone video tells a much different story. As you watch, pay attention to the right side of the screen, almost off camera. It happened so fast, we're slowing the video down to give you a better look as Mac Nelson's body hits the ground. Steve Young was the man who happened to be recording at that very moment. A founding member of KC LEAP, the Law Enforcement Accountability Project, Young and his team of volunteers make it their mission to respond to police-involved shootings, also they can monitor the investigations that ensue.
We will actually document the whole scene. We'll stay until the scene is clear. We'll actually question any witnesses, any people around in the area. We do our own canvassing because we just don't believe what the police say.
As soon as he heard the news about that officer-involved shooting, he rushed to the scene and hit record. Meanwhile, according to the police report, Nelson was filming the crime scene of the police-involved shooting on his Facebook Live. He was allegedly asked to move behind the crime scene tape, but refused to comply. The report states he was notified he was under arrest, and as an officer, referred to as P.O. Frazier, began to handcuff him, Nelson resisted by jerking his arms away and attempting to twist his body, resulting in him falling to the ground. But Young says that's not what he saw when the male officer approached Nelson from behind.
He placed himself behind Mac's back as if he was going to put handcuffs on him. And so from the time he got over there and he got behind his back, he picked him up and just body slammed him. It was like there was no conversation or anything.
He wasn't doing to y'all. He wasn't doing nothing to them.
I know.
So, I mean, so now here, my question is like, where's the national news coverage about this? Where's the national news coverage about this? Now, again, what somebody needs to ask the Democrats is, when it comes to the Democrats, why is it that on the Crimecast channel, we literally talk about this kind of thing damn near every day of the week? But the Democrats pick and choose which one of these kinds of situations that they want to politicize. Like I told you guys, that whole George Floyd thing, all of that stuff is more common than you think. Would you guys agree? If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down.
It was like there was no conversation or anything.
He wasn't doing to y'all. He wasn't doing nothing to them.
I know.
He probably slammed his head on the ground.
Nelson was eventually taken to a local hospital by ambulance.
So now for all of the PC people, right, who sit there and act represents what's going on, my question to the PC people and to BLM is, where is BLM when it comes to this particular situation? And I gotta agree with Carlton. Nobody cares, or nobody wants to benefit off of it, because there's no black man dead as a result. And we all know that that's PC and BLM's favorite thing. If you guys agree with that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down.
According to his attorney, John Paserno, he suffered multiple injuries, leading to PTSD that lingers to this day.
He sustained numerous cuts, bruises, lacerations to his head, to the top of his shoulder, to his arm, and his face was split open pretty well. Blood was gushing out. He had to get, I believe, 11 stitches, some on the exterior of his face and then some on the inside to close up the wounds.
Paserno filed a lawsuit on Nelson's behalf, alleging excessive force and claiming officers lied on the police report. He says rather than take the case to trial, both sides reached a settlement of $500,000. But
he should have taken the case to trial. And see, the thing is that when you have a value chain of a worldwide system that has people economically starved, people will jump for this money instead of waiting it out and pushing it all the way through to force the change. Now, there's a value chain reason of why this guy took the settlement. My question to you guys is, why did he take the settlement?
it's not a matter of case closed for Nelson just yet. That's because he was charged with 3 misdemeanors in connection with what happened that night: disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, and trespassing, charges that landed him in jail till he entered a guilty plea.
And so they didn't drop the charges as a result of this either? They didn't drop the charges as a result of this either. I gotta agree with Ed. Ed said he should have sought justice. Facts. If you ask me, this is injustice. Exactly, Lloyd Sky Nine's facts. And shout out to my man Al McCowan. What's good with it, bro?
So when he pled guilty, he had been in custody, and as too often happens in America, people plead guilty just to get out of jail, whether or not they're guilty. So for the last 30 years, I cannot tell you the dozens.
So now here's my question: why would somebody plead guilty just to get out of jail? Is that part of the value chain of having all of the economic resources and all of the assets and starving people out economically to where they don't have the financial resources to fight their case, to be able to prove that they're not guilty of a crime that they're committed of? Is that part of the value chain? So now here's my question: how many people are now starting to see the necessity of creating value chains? If you guys are starting to see it, then give me a thumbs up. If you don't, then give me a thumbs down.
Of times that clients either over at the jail or sitting in my office have told me this happened. This officer assaulted me. This officer lied to me or lied in the police report.
Paserno says his client didn't know the video existed when he pleaded guilty. That discovery didn't come till much later, but he said it made all the difference in this case.
Do you think you would have been
So how does the come on, man, how does the attorney not know that this video that basically clears this guy existed? Are you kidding me? I'm not trying to be funny, but this is just sad. You know what I'm saying? This is sad and this is unfortunate. Because situation like this, these scumbags are going to get away with this nonsense. With a situation like this, these scumbags are going to get away with this nonsense. You know what I'm saying?
Paserno says his client didn't know the video existed when he pleaded guilty. That discovery didn't come till much later, but he said it made all the difference in this case.
Do you think you would have been successful with this settlement if you hadn't had access to that video from Leap?
Absolutely not. No, there's no case without the video.
So tomorrow, Attorney John Paserno will be back in court trying to get the convictions against Mac Nelson reversed. KCPD conducted its own internal investigation into what happened, and that investigation has been turned over to the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office, where it is still under review. Now,
it's probably not under review. It's probably under a trash can, or it's probably under a filing cabinet. So again, what we have when it comes to internal investigations is we have the brothers investigating the cousins. So my question for you is, when it comes to any internal investigation, how is that investigation going to turn out ultimately? And let me ask you another question. Just by the nature of what internal affairs investigations does, is internal investigations a conflict of interest? If you ask me, what I think is that internal affairs should be a rotating duty that crosses jurisdictions, right? Like, if you ask me, the Sacramento Sheriff and Police Department should investigate internal affairs for New York Police Department. The New York Police Department should investigate what goes on in Atlanta, and they shouldn't be allowed to communicate back and forth. The internal affairs of every law enforcement should always be investigated by an accompanying federal law enforcement agency, as well as with a enforcement agency out of the jurisdiction. And that should always change on a yearly basis based on a random lottery. But they know that. And so the reason why it's not set up like that is to be able to maintain network and maintain the conflict of interest, because the conflict of interest actually tightens the chains of the value chain. You know what I'm saying? Torian said, read the comment about, okay. So Torian says he was in fear of retaliation. It was either take the money or die. Yeah, that probably is the case. If you guys agree with Torian, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down.
Because of that ongoing investigation, KPD told me they were unable to comment on the story.
But what about the officer involved in the altercation, P.O. Frazier?
Well, that they actually were able to confirm for us. They said both that officer and the officer who wrote that police report are both still on active duty. They're both still on patrol.
Why? So the officers clearly lied on the police report, and they're still on active duty, still on active patrol, still getting a paycheck. But again, this is overstated. This is hyperbole. Where's Bill Mayer at? Where is any of these people at? Here's my question. Why does this channel only have 253 subscribers? Let me know.
Confirm for us. They said both that officer and the officer who wrote that police report are both still on active duty. They're both still on patrol. Obviously, if anything changes in terms of any charges or if those convictions are reversed, we'll certainly update our viewers accordingly.
I just learned Casey Leak's been around for just 2 years now.
Yeah, since 2021, they said they're made up of all volunteers, and they get called all hours of the day and the night. They respond to these scenes, and they try to document everything.
All right.
So now here's my question. As the Crimecast channel, it gets larger, and as it expands, these kind of local criminal advocacy organizations, defense attorneys, would you guys like interviews with these kind of people? If we are able to get in touch with these people's families, would you guys be interested in interviews with these people's families? If that's something that you guys would be interested in, then give me a thumbs up, and also make sure you guys leave a comment in the comment section after the video.